Hi, I'm Carlene. My sister told me her son was dying and needed a transplant. I gave her every dollar I had, $47,500. Days later, I saw her sipping champagne in Monaco, smiling for Instagram like nothing happened. What kind of sister fakes a tragedy just to live her best life? Have you ever been used by someone you love? What's the worst betrayal you've experienced? Also, what time is it right now where you are? And where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I read them all. The onions were halfway diced when my phone buzzed against the marble counter. At first, I let it ring. Then I saw the name, Delaney. I dried my hands, stared at the screen for a moment too long, and picked up. It was 2:03 a.m. "Carlene," she sobbed, voice breaking into static. "It's Asher. We're at the hospital. They think it's something rare, neurological. They're saying transplant, bone marrow, Zurich. He might not make it." I gripped the edge of the counter. "What? Since when?" "They don't have the equipment here. He needs to be flown out tomorrow. Insurance won't cover it. It's urgent. I don't even have time to explain. I need 47,000. I know that's insane, but this is Asher, my baby." My chest went still. I had just reached $47,500 in savings, down payment ready, 6 years of late-night shifts, skipped weekends, couch surfing. But this was Asher. "He's 5, she choked. "He doesn't understand what's happening. Please, you're the only person I can ask." I stood in the middle of my kitchen, breath shallow, onions forgotten. She said she'd pay me back. She always said that. But this time felt different. Or maybe I just needed to believe it was. At 9:46 a.m., I wired the money. She texted once, "Thank you. You saved him." Nothing since. By noon, guilt had replaced whatever shaky comfort I felt. I hadn't even slept. I packed a bag, just in case. I kept my phone beside me like it might breathe. The next morning, I opened Instagram while the coffee brewed. First image, Delaney, pink bikini, glass of champagne in hand. Caption, "Best life, healing vibes." The next, lounging on a yacht, sun glinting off borrowed sunglasses. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I sat down, knees touching the cold tile floor. My coffee machine hissed behind me. In my ears, I heard her say, "This is life or death." Maybe it was. But whose? I watched the screen longer than I should have, letting it burn a hole in my stomach. My hands moved on their own. Screenshots, caption saved, post archived. Somewhere in my chest, something cracked. Not anger, not sadness, something sharper. I thought of that little boy, the one she'd used as a shield, and I thought of my money, my home, my silence. Then I looked at her smiling under Monaco's sun. I picked up my phone again, not to call her, not to ask questions. Instead, I opened a new folder and named it one word: proof. By the time I was back at work, my hands moved like they remembered, but my mind didn't follow. I restocked shelves I'd already stocked, typed emails I deleted before sending. Every few minutes, I checked my phone. Nothing from Delaney. No texts, no updates, no photos of Asher in a hospital bed or boarding a flight. Just stillness. At first, I filled in the gaps for her. She's overwhelmed. She's exhausted. She's probably already in Zurich and can't get reception. I even Googled time zones, tried to rationalize the silence with clocks and compassion. Then came the doubt. Late Tuesday night, I replayed our phone call. Not just the words, her tone, how she stumbled over the name of the condition, how she said Zurich before she said bone marrow, like she'd picked a city before a reason. I opened a tab, searched pediatric bone marrow transplant Zurich. Nothing matched the clinic she mentioned. Nothing matched anything at all. I sat back. The kitchen light buzzed faintly overhead, casting shadows onto the glass I hadn't touched. My stomach tightened in that slow, nauseous way you feel before you admit something you're afraid to know. What if none of it was real? The next morning, I texted her. "Let me know how he's doing. Thinking of you both." Read. No reply. 12 hours later, I tried again. "Did he make it to the hospital okay?" Read. No reply. On the third day, I called. Once, no answer. Then again, straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I didn't want my voice to sit there waiting beside hers. Instead, I opened our old photo album on my phone, Asher in his Halloween astronaut costume, grinning with a missing tooth. That boy didn't know he was being used. I wasn't sure I did either. Until now. I sat at the edge of my bed, scrolling through pictures like proof that he existed, that he needed saving. But even the silence felt rehearsed now. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel like fear. It feels like avoidance. That night, the desert wind hit the windows harder than usual. I closed them, but the cold stayed in my bones. I didn't text again. I didn't ask. I wasn't going to chase someone into a lie. Instead, I opened my phone and started a new note. Timeline? Evidence? I wrote down the time she called, the words she used, the wired amount, the lack of confirmation, the posts she hadn't made. Then I opened Pinterest and deleted my saved board titled, First Home Modern Earth Tones. The screen glitched for half a second, then confirmed, board deleted. I looked at my reflection in the hallway mirror. Tired. Just enough makeup to fake okay. I stared longer than I should have. If you're lying, Delaney, I whispered, I'm going to find out. I stirred my coffee twice before remembering I'd already done it. The sun was barely up, but the Scottsdale heat had already crept through the glass. I sat at the kitchen counter, checking my phone out of habit, not expectation. No messages, no updates, no receipts, just silence. At work, I went through motions with a hollow kind of efficiency. Typed, nodded, smiled. I nodded so often that by lunch my neck ached. I told myself she was probably in Zurich, jet-lagged or preoccupied. But that voice, the one that always knew better, kept whispering, she'd have posted something by now. That night, I tapped through Instagram. Not hers. I'd already muted her stories, but a friend we both knew had reposted something. A familiar lounge chair, a mimosa, the caption read, Retreat mode activated. The background wasn't a hospital. It was a high-end airport lounge in Miami, not Zurich, not even close. I sat very still. I didn't click on it, didn't comment. I just stared, long enough to feel cold in a room that was 90 degrees. 16 years ago, she used Asher's birthday to host 3 separate small parties. She collected gifts from each group, said it was to spread love. Back then, I called it creative. Now, I called it training. The next morning, my phone vibrated with a text that hit like a brick through glass. There are complications. Doctors say he might need a second procedure. We're short. Then just 2 numbers, $12,000. That was it. No please, no thank you, just clinical need, as if I was a credit line she hadn't maxed out yet. I stared at it for a long time, reread it. Then again. My thumb hovered over the reply button. I started typing. What's the name of the doctor? Deleted it, typed again. Can I wire directly to the clinic? Deleted that too. I didn't answer, but I didn't say no, and somehow that felt worse. The silence from my side should have said enough, but I knew her. She'd spin it as worry. She'd call it stress. She'd say, you've always been the strong one. And I'd almost believe that not replying was cruelty, except it wasn't. It was strategy. For once, I didn't open my banking app, but I thought about it. The thought alone made me angry, that she still had that power, that even now, after lies and vanishing acts, I hesitated. I tapped on the message, forwarded it, to myself. Subject, evidence 2. I whispered it like a spell. This doesn't feel like a request. It feels like a demand. The voice note came just after midnight. I almost didn't listen, thinking it was another forwarded video or a group thread gone silent, but the preview said her name. I pressed play. You're the only one I can count on. You've always been the responsible one. You always show up, even when it's hard. She paused, then added, Please don't let me down now. Asher needs you. I need you. I didn't respond. I listened to it again and again. My hand trembled, but not from emotion, from restraint. It didn't sound like a plea. It sounded like a command dressed in childhood sentiment. 16 years ago, she crashed Dad's car sneaking out to meet a guy from the lake. I lied to cover her, said I took it without asking. I lost prom. She gained a secret. That was the trade. That was always the trade. Back in my kitchen, I opened my laptop. I didn't hesitate, just typed in Zurich bone marrow transplant pediatric. Names popped up. I copied the first hospital. Called. I wasn't even nervous. Hi, yes, I'm calling about my nephew. He was supposed to be admitted this week. His name is Asher Ray. Could you confirm if he's listed? A soft-voiced woman on the other end asked me to hold. When she came back, her words were sharp. "We have no patient by that name. No procedures scheduled. Are you certain about the location?" I thanked her, closed the laptop, and didn't move for a long time. It wasn't the lie that hit first. It was the space the truth created. An empty sort of hum, like when the fridge stops running and you realize how much noise it made before it went silent. I grabbed a notebook, drew a line down the middle. Left. Call time. Wire transfer. Voicemail quote. Right. No patient. No follow-up. Retreat caption. I added the voice note to a folder on my desktop, renamed it, in case she denies it. No drama, no confrontation, just a quiet sort of building. I brewed tea, watched the steam curl and vanish. I didn't cry, didn't even feel sad. I just felt done waiting to be lied to again. That night, under the hum of the ceiling fan, I wrote an email. Short, direct. Subject, Zurich inquiry, urgent. Body, if you have any verification of transplant activity for patient Asher Ray, please confirm immediately. I stared at the blinking cursor. Then I clicked send. The message came in the middle of a workday. Just one sentence. You wouldn't understand. You're not a mother. It took me 2 full minutes to breathe normally again. I sat at my desk, surrounded by half-finished invoices, her voice echoing in my head. She said it like an insult disguised as pity, like a crown I'd never earned. But I had raised more of her messes than she'd ever raised her child. She wasn't using Asher's pain. She was manufacturing it. And for the first time, I didn't feel wounded. I felt insulted. That night, I didn't text back. I didn't call. I made a different call. To Soren. We met in the parking lot of an old cafe off Miller Road. He handed me a velvet pouch, clipped a mic to the inside of my sweater, and gave one nod. Delaney was already there, sipping iced coffee like it was just another brand collab lunch. She smiled when she saw me. "You look tired," she said, tone sweet and smug. I smiled back. "Busy week." We talked, mostly her. Asher was recovering well. The doctors were hopeful. Insurance was still complicated. She mentioned a fundraiser. And then she said the thing I needed her to say. "Look, I know how this sounds," she laughed, leaning in. "But people love a good sick kid story. It's marketing, Carlene. Sympathy moves faster than logic. Always has." She winked. I blinked. I didn't ask for more. I didn't flinch. I just let her talk. When it was over, we hugged. I felt her chin rest lightly on my shoulder, as if we were still sisters, as if none of this cost me anything. Then I left, calm, silent, focused. At home, I uploaded the recording, 3 backups, 1 on a flash drive, 1 to a private cloud, 1 burned to a disk I'd hide inside a photo album. The folder name Family Fraud, Phase 2. I called Malcolm, left a message. "We need to talk. It's about Asher." I didn't add details. I didn't explain. I just sat in my kitchen, boiled water for tea, and rewound the audio. She said it so casually, so comfortably, like she'd rehearsed it. "People love a good sick kid story." I whispered, "I think the court will love that too." I played the audio again. Just that one line. "Sad sells. Nobody clicks on stability." Her voice didn't crack when she said it. No hesitation, no shame. Just a sip of iced coffee and the ease of someone who had used that line before. It didn't sting this time. It lit a match. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I felt something sharper, intention. The file was already backed up twice, but I made a third. 1 to my phone, 1 to the cloud, 1 to a flash drive that I taped under the silverware drawer. I wasn't taking chances anymore. Malcolm called just after noon. His voice wasn't panicked. It was flat. "I went to pick up Asher today. She left him with a 16-year-old girl from the building. The fridge was empty except for expired string cheese and an old bottle of Pedialyte." He paused. "CPS is already involved. I'm filing immediately. I don't care what she spins it as." I didn't say sorry. I didn't say shocked. I just said, "I have something to give you, and it's bigger than you think." We met behind a diner on Indian School Road. He looked 10 years older than I remembered, creased eyes, clenched jaw. I handed him the envelope. No ceremony. Inside, the audio, the screenshots, the timeline I'd built over nights spent staring into silence. He listened to it on his phone, standing beside his car. I watched his knuckles turn white around the edge of the door. She didn't just lie to you, he said, voice low. She used our son as a click funnel. I nodded. She underestimated both of us. We didn't talk about custody, not yet, but something passed between us. An unspoken contract built on disbelief, betrayal, and the shared ache of watching someone become unrecognizable. When I got home, I made tea, not because I needed calm, but because ritual kept me from screaming. The kettle hissed as I stared out the kitchen window. Light moved through the blinds like water, slow and creeping. My phone buzzed. A message from her. Hey sis, just checking in. Everything okay? We should talk soon. The words were saccharine, safe, like she hadn't been cornered. I didn't respond. I didn't even open it. Instead, I opened my email to Josie Kwan. Subject, regarding Delaney Ray. Attached, everything. Malcolm's message was short. You need to hear this. The audio clicked on as I sat in my car, parked in front of the post office. Asher's voice was light, casual. The babysitter said Mommy went to dance class. Did you know she's learning salsa now? No malice, no confusion, just honesty from a child who hadn't learned to lie yet. I gripped the steering wheel, not out of shock, but because I wasn't surprised anymore, just angry it had come from him. That night, the article dropped. Josie didn't hold back. The headline was brutal in its clarity. Instagram's sick kid lie. The truth about Delaney Ray. Photos, timeline, screenshots, a link to the audio, even the clip of Delaney saying, "Sad cells, nobody clicks on stability." Within minutes, the post spread like a wildfire through dry desert wind. My phone lit up nonstop. Unknown numbers, blue checks, press inquiries. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in 7 years texted, "I'm here if you want to talk." Talk about what? By morning, Delaney's follower count had dropped by tens of thousands. Brands pulled their partnerships. Her management issued a single line. We are no longer affiliated with Miss Ray. I watched it unfold from the gym parking lot, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. Comments bled down the screen. You're a monster. How could you use your son? May you never sleep again. And then, where was the aunt? She knew and stayed silent. That one cut. They didn't know. They didn't see the years I held her lies like they were fragile glass. They didn't hear the calls at 2 a.m., the guilt-laced stories, the collapse I was told to clean up. I whispered, they don't know, but I do. I called my lawyer, scheduled a meeting with Malcolm and CPS. The next move wouldn't be digital. It would be real, documented, public, permanent. At noon, another alert flashed across my screen. Delaney Ray is no longer represented by Lux Vision Media. And a second one. Live. Delaney goes live in 5 mins. I tapped in without thinking. The screen was black for a moment. Then her voice filled the speaker, not crying, not apologizing, just furious. The subject line was short. Ray dropped over donation fraud. I read it 3 times. I opened the email, saw the statement from Lux Vision Media. They were severing all ties with Delaney. No further comment, no apologies, no defense, just distance. Other brands followed. Collab links vanished. Her live streams were shut down. She had become a cautionary tale in real time. I didn't feel satisfaction. No fist pump. No, I told you so. I just stared at the screen and exhaled. Finally, the world caught up to what I already knew. The courtroom smelled like stale wood and cold air. It wasn't glamorous. No cameras. Just a judge who didn't blink. And a silence thicker than any PR disaster Delaney had ever spun through. She sat in beige. No contour, no lashes. Her hair pulled back like she was trying to erase the influencer entirely. I wondered if she even knew who was left underneath. Malcolm testified first. Calm, precise. He played the recording. She didn't flinch. Neither did the judge. Then came the timeline, the emails, the wire transfers, the screenshots, and finally, her own words. People love a good sick kid story. No one spoke. The courtroom didn't gasp. It just absorbed the weight. The gavel didn't thunder. It tapped. Full custody to Malcolm. Court-mandated therapy for Delaney. No unsupervised visits. Review in 18 months. Possibly. Outside, Malcolm stood with his hands in his pockets. We didn't hug. This wouldn't have happened without you, he said. This shouldn't have needed me at all, I answered. He nodded. That was enough. Back home, I poured myself a glass of water, let it sit untouched. The house was quiet, not peaceful, just no longer holding its breath, I opened the folder on my laptop labeled Delaney Evidence. Selected all. Deleted. No ceremony, no sound effect. Just gone. As the laptop closed, my phone buzzed. No contact, just a number. The message read, "This isn't over." I didn't block it. I didn't answer. I just turned the phone off and let the dark settle in like an old friend. The voicemail came just before sunrise. I played it once. "You won, but maybe all you won was silence. I hope it keeps you warm." It was her voice. Smoothed out, low, cold, like she was reading from a eulogy she didn't believe in. There was no apology, no explanation, just that hollow kind of bitterness that comes when someone's no longer performing, but still doesn't know how to stop. I didn't save it, didn't forward it to my lawyer. I just deleted it. She thought it was a parting shot. It felt more like a closing statement, and I had nothing left to rebut. That weekend, I saw Asher at the park. He spotted me before I saw him. His little legs ran so fast I almost didn't have time to brace. His arms wrapped around my waist like nothing had ever gone wrong. He didn't ask about her, didn't mention the hearings. He just handed me a piece of paper folded in half with crayon marks bleeding through. Inside was a stick figure drawing of 3 people and a sun. Malcolm caught up behind him, out of breath. "He hasn't brought her up in days," he said, quiet. "I don't think he's avoiding it. I think he's healing faster than we are." I nodded. No advice, no wisdom, just presence. The days after felt like a slow exhale. I went back to work. I let myself sleep through alarms. Walked in the desert until the quiet didn't feel empty anymore. I turned down a podcast invitation. Some woman wanted me to talk about navigating betrayal within family. No thanks. I didn't want to be a story. I'd already survived one. At Jolene's salon, I asked her to cut it short. The hair, the heaviness, the years I'd carried too much for someone who wouldn't hold even a conversation honestly. The scissors made no ceremony of it. Neither did I. That night, I pulled out an old stationery box from the top shelf. Wrote Asher a letter he wouldn't read for at least a decade. "You weren't the reason she broke. You were the reason I stood back up." I sealed it. Wrote one word on the envelope: future. Then I sat on my porch, feet tucked beneath me, cool air biting at my shoulders. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. No voicemail this time, no text. I didn't answer. I didn't even lift the screen. Some ghosts don't haunt. They just wait. Sometimes, the hardest part isn't the lie itself. It's how long we let it live because we're afraid of what facing the truth might destroy. I let silence buy her more time than she ever deserved. Not because I was weak, but because I loved her. And when that love was weaponized, I chose to protect what mattered most: my peace, my integrity, and a child who deserved better. If this story made you reflect, ask yourself, how many lies are you carrying that don't belong to you? And more importantly, when will you put them down? Let's talk. Drop a 1 in the comments if this story resonated with you. Or tell me where you're watching from. If this didn't hit home, I want to hear why. I read every comment. If you're still here, don't just scroll. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next story that might just be the one you needed to hear.